Hello and welcome to the 42 Minutes of Heaven we call the D1Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Patrick Rooney. I want to say thank you to Academy Sports and Outdoors. Get ready for a new season of fishing fun with Academy Sports and Outdoors. Reel in the best gear at low prices every day. Plus, Academy offers easy ways to shop and save time, like free 1-hour in-store or curbside pickup on academy.com orders. Thank you to those guys. And the fishing gear seems to be very popular. Just our good friend Danny Graves can't stop raving about it. Gentlemen, I've got Sauce, I've got Fitty Barrels, and I got Big Tex. And if you don't know what their real names are with their middle names, then that's your homework, listener.
You better recognize.
Yes, game recognize game. Gentlemen, I told you I've got quiz questions. I've got games for us tonight. Are we ready? Week 4 is behind us.
Spin the wheel, Runes.
Yeah, let's spin the wheel. Okay.
Let's play the feud.
Let's play the feud. First game is an over-under. The over-under is 6.5. 6.5 over-under. Number of SEC and ACC teams in Omaha this year, 6.5. Now, let me give you guys some data. Since the pandemic, 2024, 8 teams in Omaha, all from the SEC and the ACC. 2023, 6 of the 8 teams were from the current format of the ACC and SEC, because Stanford was one of those teams as a Pac-12 member. 2022, also 8 SEC, ACC teams. Can we call it the SEC, ACC conglomerate?
Sure.
Because the 3 teams that were not members yet were Oklahoma, Texas, and Stanford. And then in 2021, it was 7 teams from the conglomerate because we had Stanford and Texas in there. So it's been a lot of teams, boys, since the pandemic. Fitty Barrels, you're kind of an on-base machine. Would you like to go first?
Yeah, over.
Over?
It just feels like those leagues were already strong. I mean, again, see 2024.
Yeah.
And now you're adding Oklahoma, Texas, Stanford into the mix. And it's like all those teams feel like potential Omaha teams also. I mean, gosh, it's crazy how deep those 2 leagues are. And yes, there are other teams out there that could upset the apple cart, but do I think there'll be more than one team outside those 2 leagues? I don't. I think it'll be 7 out of 8.
7 out of 8. K. Rizzle, what say you?
I'm going to go with the under. I'm going to say 6 out of 8.
Yeah.
You know, the thing I keep thinking about is if you look at the Big 12, you know, the Big 12 right now doesn't have an elite team, but what they have is a lot of really solid teams. You know, the Sun Belt has 3 really solid teams at the top of that league. You know, the Big 10 has some nice pieces as well. I mean, UCLA, I think Aaron might have predicted this before the season, but UCLA is making a comeback now. So I just think that I feel like there's several leagues where the top 2 or 3, 4 teams are pretty solid and can knock off one of these SEC teams that would be in regionals.
I like it. Joe, what say you?
I'm going to go over, and part of my rationale is that getting to – you guys ready for a statement? Getting to Omaha is hard.
Yes.
And I think a lot of times you kind of have to have close shaves to kind of build up to getting there. Now, sometimes you're Coastal Carolina, although I guess they had close shaves before, but, you know, you get to Omaha once and then bang, you win a national title and you make it look easy. But for the most part, you kind of do have to acquire some scar tissue before you get to Omaha in many cases. And when you look at the league that I think is most likely to produce Omaha teams other than those 2 is the Big 12, right? And take Arizona and TCU out of it because those 2 teams have been recently, but everybody else we're looking at here that we think could plausibly do this is either a team that's never been or a team that hasn't been in a long time to where it's not even really relevant history. So you're asking these programs, and maybe the answers are somebody like TCU or Arizona, but for the most part, we're asking teams that have just never done this to do this, and that's hard. So I'm going to go over for all of the above reasons, as much as I realize that's not healthy for college baseball, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. I'm like, I think you guys all make great points. I'm very encouraged by the Big 10 and I'm very encouraged by the Big 12, but I'm also taking the over because we're getting to a point where I'm having a tough time picturing like the visuals are so strong of like SEC and ACC teams in Omaha. I'm having a tough time picturing this happen. So I'll take the over. I think Fitzy, I'm with you. I think 7 is the number. So here's the question. I'm going to come back to you, Fitzy. Pick the 8th team. So like for it not to be 8 teams, you have to have a team in mind in theory, or a team that you think is capable of it. Who is, so Kendall, you're gonna have to pick 2. Actually, you pick 2, Fitzy. You pick 2. We'll each pick. Let's go 1 around the horn, 1 around the horn. So start us off, Fitzy. Who's a team you could see getting to Omaha? Not SEC, not ACC.
Yeah. Give me the Ducks. I'm gonna take the Ducks. I mean, take your pick of the teams in that state, except for maybe Portland. No offense to the Pilots and Coach Rooney. I know you're a big Pilots guy, but Oregon feels like they've been knocking at the door, and they have super regional experience on that roster, and I like the cut of their jib, and I think they're going to be right there.
Kendall, pick one. Pick a non-SEC ACC team you could see getting there.
Well, do you want me to give you 2 since I had?
We're going to go one at a time. We're going to come back to you.
Okay, I'll go Southern Miss. This is a team that is just really deep on the mound. I mean, if you look at their weekend rotation with Middleton, Sibley, Matt Adams. I mean, it's guys who produce, and it's guys who have a lot of experience. And so I think when you look at a team who can knock off an SEC or ACC school in a super or a regional, you look at teams that have that formula right there, and Southern Miss certainly has it. Yeah,
I like that call. Joe, what say you? Give us one.
Shout out to my colleagues here for choosing literally the 2 teams I had named. So give me Santa Barbara. I kind of like the way they're. I mean, obviously they've been before. They've had a number of times where they were good enough to get there had things gone their way. But I also just like that so many of these mid-major teams, or not even mid-majors, but teams from other conferences, not SEC, ACC, but in particular mid-majors, the way they're built is often just not really necessarily sustainable in the postseason, because it's often a lot of hit and not a lot of pitching, or at least not a lot of pitching depth. Santa Barbara does kind of rise above that in terms of both their pitching quality and their depth. So I just kind of like the way they're built relative to the postseason.
I think if I get it why Andrew Checketts is not. He's still at Santa Barbara. He loves it there. His wife loves it there. They're raising a family. It's Santa Barbara. If I was an athletic director hiring a baseball coach, I would still call his agent every single time. Like, I just think the way he's built Santa Barbara, and I think all of us are kind of shocked at how Long Beach and Fullerton and these programs that were used to being Omaha-ish are struggling. And I think part of that is Santa Barbara is thriving. Like, there's only so many players, and like Andrew Checketts came in there and just like took it over. It's nuts.
Yeah, and if you're the other thing too about Santa Barbara is like you don't necessarily need a bunch of NIL money. Like I don't know about you, but when I went to Santa Barbara, I was like I'll pay to go to school at this place. Like it's such an awesome city and environment that I can see kids going, you know what? Like UCLA might be giving me $50,000 or $60,000, but like I'll take this. Give me this.
It's a little like the reason people used to go to Pepperdine, until it's just so expensive to go to Pepperdine. I mean, Santa Barbara, I'm sure it's super expensive nowadays to go there as well, but it's still public, so it's not it's not private. But gosh, no, you're right. They built a machine over there. The place is insane. I mean, it's why wouldn't you want to live there?
One thing that's really interesting about Santa Barbara, and I really hesitate to look at RPIs too much this early, but one thing that's really interesting about UCSB is as good as their record is, as consistent as they've been, their RPI going into like kind of the quote unquote conference heavy portion of the schedule is in the 90s. And if you go look at the remaining teams they play on the weekend in the Big West, other than Hawaii, there is not a team that's not triple digits on their schedule on the weekend. So I'm just fascinated to see what happens to their RPI as the season progresses, because right now they're at 91 and they play one team, Hawaii, in a 3-game series that has a RPI better than 100.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Isn't it too early to watch RPI though still, or isn't it?
I mean,
do you think
I think it would be if, let's say, UCSB was playing 4 or 5 teams with pretty good RPIs, but I think when you're playing 4 or 5 teams with triple-digit RPIs, maybe it means a little bit more. But I mean, Hawaii's 6, so that's obviously going to help them a little bit.
And you also need to, like if you're in the Big West, I think you're all reserved to the right or to the path that you just better win a crap ton of games, right? Like
they might be like Arizona last year. Remember when Arizona's RPI was like 32 or 33 and they hosted because they won the Big 12? They're going to have to do something like that in the Big West. They're going to have to run away with that title. But to Aaron's point about the RPI, to kind of give you an idea of where we sit, UTRGV is number 1 in the RPI. And I wrote about this last week. Derek Matlock's done an incredible job, but obviously we know that's not going to last. Xavier is 7-9 and is number 2 in the RPI. So clearly there's a lot of shifting to be done with this.
Somebody dropped like 100 points, 100 spots in the RPI this week. I can't remember who it was, but I saw it in the chat today. And I was like, that's exactly why I don't even look at this stuff until at least 6 weeks in. It's just too early.
But by the way, my team, Fitzy, and then we'll do a rapid fire round 2.
No.
I'm going to pick the other Oregon school. Oregon State is like they give me the appearance of, and I think they're going to be really. You use they're going to be tested at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So many road games. Go ahead, Fitzy. Who's your second team that you could see?
UConn Huskies.
Oh, I like that.
Like UConn, you got guys with experience from 2 super regionals. I know they started slow. They did win that series at Miami. Shoutout 305 Canes Cats Heat. Huskies won 2 out of 3. There's I guess 4 people going to get that joke, but that's fine. Listen, this is the year.
And those 4 people get checks from D1Baseball.
That's right. This is the year for UConn. You know, I believe it. I believe it. Again, knocking on the door for 15 years now. They're going to break that thing down. And I think it's going to happen this year. They got a veteran team. I like their chances. They're going to make a run.
I like it. Kendall, who's your second team?
I know this sounds a little odd because they've been a little bit up and down, but I actually really liked Oklahoma State's team at Minute Maid a couple weeks ago. Honestly, feel like they're in a pretty decent shape on the mound overall. I know they've had a couple of stinkers, but I mean, Gabe Davis, we all know about that experiment, but like Stormy Rhodes is a really solid reliever. Harrison Bodendorf was really good against A&M. Hunter Watkins is a nice arm. Drew Blake's a veteran. So we all know Oklahoma State's going to hit. I know they've been a little bit up and down offensively, but we all know they're going to hit. And I think they actually have pretty decent pitching, for the first time in a while, at least in terms of depth. And so Oklahoma State would be a team to watch for me because somebody's got to win the Big 12.
Yeah, and they have the scar tissue Joe was talking about, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
No one's had more of their guts ripped out in postseason than Oklahoma State. Go ahead, Joe.
Give me Arizona. I like the way they've bounced back from that tough opening weekend in Arlington. And I think they'll be better for it, having that opening weekend in Arlington where they just kind of got pantsed out there. And, honestly, on their resume, the most impressive single line item might be a 5-1 loss to Tennessee, considering like what Tennessee has done to so many other teams and what they look like. The fact that they kept that game like in the neighborhood, I think is pretty impressive. Yeah,
Smith Bailey was awesome in that game in the start for Arizona.
I like it. Yeah, you guys both just picked my pocket right there. I'm going to go with UCLA. I'm just going to go way off the board with UCLA. Like that, we know they've got the talent. Like their recruiting rankings, unless those rankings are just completely broken. I needed another Big Ten team. Are you guys like me? Every time you say a school's conference, you have to double check yourself. Like I feel like I'm going to have a stutter by the end of the year because I'm like UCLA from the.
It almost doesn't even matter what conference teams are in anymore. Seriously, like at this point, like who even cares anymore? I mean, it's just like it's just all utter nonsense, man.
Yeah, I mean, the other day I was looking at Bryce's schedule and I was like, wait a second, why aren't they listed on the Conference USA standings? And I'm like, because they're in the American.
It's nuts.
Yeah. I'm still doing that.
Okay, boys. I got two more quiz questions for us. This one's interesting. I had this thought. A&M is 9-6. They lost a game to New Mexico State. They had 4 hits against New Mexico State's Sunday starter. I'll start with something pejorative. I think A&M has a national championship caliber pitching staff. The more I've thought about A&M's position player group, I think it is not a national championship caliber. I think the version we thought is too, I think Hayden Schott is hurt and playing and kind of gutting his way through it. I think that Gavin Grahovic's loss is bigger than I thought. Jackson Appel, that's a huge loss. Braden Montgomery, obviously. I think the position player group, I grossly overestimated it. I don't think it's all coaching. I think that group's not good enough to win a national title. Now, that's pejorative, right? Like anybody's good enough to do it if the pitching's been great. But so here's my question. Who is going to finish the season closer to their preseason ranking? Texas A&M or Virginia? Who is going to finish the season closer to their preseason ranking?
Virginia.
Virginia for Fitzy. Tell us why.
Because they're going to finish number 1 and they're preseason number 2.
Yes. Call your shot, Fitzy.
I mean, I listen, I still believe it. And look, they've had a horse crap first month. They're still 9-6, but they've had a horse crap first month. They've not played anywhere close to as good as they are. Evan Blanco is a key piece who, you would think will be in the rotation sooner, in the weekend rotation sooner than later. They've been working on midweeks. That'll change the complexion of their staff. They're going to hit a lot more. And like, I share your concerns about A&M's offense, despite the fact that Kendall Rogers ranked them as an 80 offense heading into the season. I think probably that is not going to hold up. But I do think Virginia, I know right now, anyone would be justified questioning both of these teams. I just plain believe in Virginia's talent. They didn't lose an All-American for the season in their offense like A&M did. Virginia is going to be a lot better. Like, I'm surprised it's taken this long, but that's just kind of like hashtag that's baseball. There's ebbs and flows. Their ebb came early. They're going to get hot and they're going to start just beating the crap out of people. It's going to happen. I just plain believe in their talent. And, at some point, if we get 8 weeks into the season and it hasn't happened, maybe I'll reevaluate. But right now I'm staying the course on UVA. Yeah,
it's a great point. But Grahovic's injury, I mean, that's the SEC freshman of the year last year. Like that's a real dude. That's a preseason All-American. That's a huge loss. Kendall, what say you? What's your take on this?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I've seen both teams in person, and I thought they honestly looked very similar. Just not right. And I would say after watching both of them, I probably have a little bit more faith in A&M. I think once they get Sorrell back, I mean, again, an All-American caliber outfielder back in the lineup, I think this weekend against Alabama. And then let's not forget, we consider Josh Stewart as a reliever on our All-American teams, and he's supposed to be back in the next couple of weeks. So, if you get a guy like that on the back in the bullpen, then you get Sorrell in that lineup, given the fall that he had. I mean, obviously there might be a transition coming off a hamstring injury, but I have a hard time believing they don't turn things around. I mean, to your point earlier, their starting pitching has been excellent. I mean, Ryan Prager has been unhittable. Justin Lampkin over the weekend probably had one of his better outings that he's had in his career. I think he struck out double-digit guys. And then Miles Patton has honestly been way better than I thought he was going to be. It's not overwhelming stuff. It's up to like 92, 93, but he mixes and matches really well. So it's a really good three-man rotation, and they've got a potential All-American closer coming back in a matter of a couple of weeks to go with Sorrell. So I'm going to take the political way out here and say that I still believe in both of these teams. I think I just maybe think A&M has a little bit better chance to turn things around than Virginia.
And I'll just piggyback on that. I also believe in both teams. Like I actually, I said in the chat this morning, I still think both teams will be Omaha teams. I mean, I'm certainly not giving up on A&M. You just asked me which team I have more faith in. And
sure.
It's Virginia.
Oh, absolutely.
But I absolutely am with Kendall on that. Like totally think A&M is going to kick it into gear.
Yep. Fair. Joe, what say you?
So at the risk of maybe being a little too intellectual about this exercise, like I think I'm going to play the schedule game a little bit, and I'm going to read you Virginia's series other than Florida State, which we admit, okay, doesn't matter who you are. That's a tough one. And they also have a series against Stanford, who we just put in the rankings and we like a whole lot. Here are their other ACC series. They just played Boston College and lost it. So again, caveat, like things can happen, but Cal, Duke, NC State, Pitt, Georgia Tech, Miami, Virginia Tech. Of those teams, like who do we think is like again, you never see the landmines, but like of those teams, who scares you? Obviously Florida State and Stanford, but of those other teams, like NC State
Duke is still really scary to me.
I agree.
Yeah.
Like, let me be clear. Like, yes, totally.
Yeah.
But given the way those two teams have
Yeah,
also gotten off to relatively uneven starts,
Yeah.
like there's only those two series on their schedule where you think, hey, those are kind of toss-ups. Like,
Right.
but if Virginia's clicking on all cylinders, every one of those other series, the other 7, I guess, are series that if Virginia gets going, you just kind of assume they're going to win. So I just think the schedule ends up making a lot of difference here.
Yeah, because A&M, I haven't
That's
looked
fair.
at A&M's schedule, but I'm sure it's hellacious.
Yeah, I mean, they played Tennessee, LSU, Texas, Vanderbilt. I mean, it's like murderer's row, but that's
a little bit different.
That's pretty much how every SEC schedule is this year, like murderer's row. But the other caveat here, guys, is like, I mean, again, we'll find out how Michael really coaches the rest of the year. But the other thing to consider here is, I mean, this ain't Brian O'Connor's first rodeo.
That's right.
So
I think that's an important point. And again, like even and we all believe in Michael Early and we like him a lot and think he has a very bright future as a head coach. But it is literally his first rodeo, whereas Oak's been doing this stuff for 2 decades plus and been a lot of trips to Omaha in there. And I think that matters. I do.
Yeah, it's really interesting, Aaron, because like after the weekend in Round Rock, we were talking, the media was talking to him afterwards, and somebody asked him about the offense, and like without hesitation, he was like, "Oh, we're gonna hit a lot." And there was like zero concern that, hey, we're gonna turn things around from Brian O'Connor after that weekend.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm mentally tracking for this next conversation in my head, which is when do these two teams, Virginia and A&M, become 2023 Tennessee? When do they become 2024 Florida or LSU? We still, to your point, Fitzy, like it's too early to say that yet, but like those were preseason top 5 teams that couldn't, just kind of spun out of control for a while, but then were a nightmare to see in the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fascinated to see I'll see A&M and Alabama this weekend. Like, I'm fascinated to see that series. So I think for A&M, you guys made the point, like their schedule. I think for A&M, given where they are RPI, again, we don't want to look too much at the RPI, but given some of the bad losses they had in non-conference, I mean, their RPI is like 134. Like, this is actually a pretty big series for them to start SEC play at home against an Alabama team where like Justin LeBron is like untouchable.
And I would think, after this weekend, should they win that series against a team that's 13-1 or whatever Alabama is,
they'll go.
You probably see a 50 spot jump or more. Like that's how volatile it is at this point.
Yep. Hey, last quiz question, boys, and then I got just a couple other quick hitters for us. This is 2025 is the most I've been interested in Big Ten baseball in I don't know how long. And I'm going to make excuses for myself. Part of it is because they're hard to cover and they're kind of invisible and all those types of things. I want to give Mike Gambino a lot of credit for this. Like, Mike Gambino's done a great job not letting us forget about them. He's got me excited about Penn State baseball, and the West Coast infusion into the conference is really awesome. But one of my criticisms in the past of the Big Ten, besides the invisibility, is it's just like the crabs in the bucket thing. Like, nobody can separate themselves. It's like you got champions that are 15-9 or whatever they are. Like it's just but now we got 30 games and all that stuff. But here's what I wanted to say to you guys: I've never been this excited about the Big Ten, and I also think that Oregon's going to run away from the league. I like Oregon. I watched quite a bit of them sweep USC on the road this weekend, on the road, air quotes. And, as at home as this can be for SC, and Oregon, man, they're like, those are some bad dudes. Like they're good. They don't care about hurting your feelings. Like there's very much an SEC flavor to Oregon. And I like, in my mind, they're winning that league by 3 games, if not more. What say you guys? Fitzy, you got a thought on that?
Agreed on all counts. I think it's a much better league than it has been. But I still think we have a clear favorite, and I'm with you. I think they win maybe by 3 games, but but I mean, here's like, I was talking about this in the chat today. Like, who's the number 4 league in college baseball? Because the Sun Belt fans will insist that the Sun Belt's the 4th best league. And I'm saying, okay, like the top 3 teams of the Sun Belt are good. But then it's a big drop. It's a big drop. And if you just look at the non-conference performance to this point, I mean, the Big Ten is the number 4 RPI conference, and the Sun Belt's 8. because there's just not nearly the depth that there is in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And you have other teams that like currently, sure, we only have Oregon in the top 25, but you've got Penn State, you've got Purdue, you've got UCLA. At one point earlier this year, Michigan was almost in the top 25, and they're been kind of uneven since then, but like that could be a top 25 team. You've got Maryland that I think eventually could be a top 25 team. You've got a bunch of teams that like could wind up in that mix. And so I think you're probably looking at maybe a 5-bid league, thereabouts, 6 potentially. But still, Oregon is definitely the clear-cut favorite. I'm totally with you on that.
Yep.
Yeah, the other thing I was going to mention on Oregon, just kind of looking at its schedule. I mean, with already a conference road series out of the way, USC this past weekend, they have Ohio State, Maryland, Michigan State, and Iowa left as the road series, and the other better teams in the league they get at home. That's pretty favorable.
Yeah.
The only thing about Michigan State though is like that Jerwick kid, he's not going to be a layup to beat on. You just saw him, Joe, right? How was he in person?
It's electric. There's a reason Vanderbilt wanted him, right? Vanderbilt's not in the business of bringing in guys they can't use, like in the portal, right? If anything, their fans would like them to be more aggressive, bringing guys in. So if they wanted him, he's something. So that's what makes it tricky. Is like, I don't know how good Michigan State will or won't be. I know they're better than they've been, but I mean they're going to win a lot of Fridays. It's hard to imagine. I'm sure there is a Big Ten pitcher I'm just forgetting, but every Big Ten matchup will be at worst a toss-up for Michigan State because of him on the mound.
And it's not like they're only winning his starts. I mean, they're 12-3.
Yeah, they've got his first name escapes me, but Higgins as their second guy, and that's a prospect too. It's like up to 95, and it's he struggled with command last couple of years, but he's really kind of shored that up. And yeah, they've got some interesting pieces. I liked what I saw. I was pretty. I mean, I haven't been locked into Michigan State baseball the way like Patrick Ebert I'm sure has, but it's the best I've seen Michigan State in a while, and albeit in one look. My larger thoughts, Runes, because I assume it my turn.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure I wasn't skipping the order here.
No, you're good.
I think Oregon will win the league. That's my prediction, but I think it'll manage to be closer than that. But I think the thing that has me most interested though in the Big Ten is I think finally the expansion has kind of forced them to reassess some things and maybe think outside the box a little bit with regards to baseball, because I say that because, I mean, yes, I think there's some level of Oregon expects to compete nationally in baseball, and UCLA does as well to a different degree. So those programs are going to kind of put a little bit of pressure on the league, I feel like, or just put pressure on other programs in the league to try to do likewise. The other thing I will say is that I thought it was a really interesting move that Illinois and Michigan played their series in Florida in a conference series. I wouldn't be shocked if we see, because Michigan State plays in Greenville, South Carolina every year, I wouldn't be shocked to see them do something similar at some point in the near future. And I'm not saying that that's like this, cure-all, like go play in warm places, but I do think it kind of helps that, it guarantees some games, it guarantees better quality games. And let's also face it, most of the Big Ten are national brands academically. They're the types of schools that have people all over the place. And I do think Big Ten baseball, to your original point, Runes, has a visibility problem. And playing a 3-game series in, wherever, Vero Beach is not going to fix that, but it doesn't hurt. And so I do think there is a maybe a little bit of a renewed vitality in the way that the Big Ten as a whole is thinking about baseball. And I think that can only help.
And I think, in years past in the old configuration, we always thought they probably didn't play enough conference games, in part because they couldn't play those games at home in early March because of the weather. And so now they've been forced really into this large, this bigger schedule. In order to make that work, I think you kind of have to do some of this creative thinking and play some games in the South, right? I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm off base on this, but I think it's almost like it's just common sense. And I think it's good. I think it's absolutely with you, Joe. I think it's a good move for the league.
I think I'd be interested in Kendall remembers the old like Big 12 conference tournaments to start conference play back in the day where, you'd have multiple teams going to. Yeah. And I know I reported this when I was at Baseball America, like the American was going to do that. and then the COVID season happened and it just kind of got derailed. They were going to do something similar. And look, if you have a place in Florida, if you have Greenville, South Carolina, if you have US Bank Stadium in Minnesota, like you could send teams to 3 different places and probably do something in 3 locations and actually make it kind of a cool deal. So I do think there are opportunities here, because it's also not, let's be honest, it is also not like the league. They don't always have money for baseball, but they got money to spend in that league. So it's not like they can cry poor and say, well, we can't really put this kind of thing on. Like,
well, they got 70 sports, Joe. They got 70 sports that each they got to support. So,
can you imagine seeing Ohio State's baseball team on a Greyhound bus with other customers down the floor?
We got to take care of that men's badminton team.
Stopping at the Burger King in Waycross, Georgia.
So I won't bag on Ohio State's bocce ball team out of respect for Joe.
Yeah,
that's right.
Thank you. That's a real sport.
Gentlemen, let's take a quick break to say thank you to our good friends at Tecovas Boots. If you love our game, you know that smell, the one that brings you right back. Fresh cut grass, a broken-in glove made with real leather. That's exactly what you get with Tecovas Boots. They're made for baseball people, whether you've been wearing boots your whole life or you're picking up your first pair. With over 200 steps of craftsmanship, they're built to last, feel great right out of the box, and look even better. Anywhere worth going is worth going in good boots. Find your pair today at Tecovas. Gosh, that's a fun read. That is a glorious read.
If they could make boots that smell like freshly cut grass, now we'd really be cooking.
They're making me reevaluate
Are we
my
actually
whole
going to
life.
get? Can we actually get Fitt to go to Omaha the first day in a cowboy hat and boots?
I think we're all in agreement. I
think
didn't even know it was a question.
Maybe. I guess you can.
Let's do it.
Fitzy will be 6'3" in cowboy boots. Let's go.
This
Let's not overdo it.
This is just the advantage I need.
That's right. Yeah.
The hat too.
Let's go. Boys, I had 2 more things for us. I want to talk about pitching real quick, and I want to talk about some of the fun upsets. Pitching. There was our good man Bradley Smart, ACC Extra. By the way, if you're listening to this, please get your subscription to SEC Extra and ACC Extra. They're the same thing. It's the same subscription. You get one, you get both of them. They're a partner. They're a pair. You know that Joe and Mark Etheridge do amazing work at SEC Extra. And Bradley Smart, again, it's not the work of a human being. It's the work of a cyborg. He is unbelievable how good his stuff is at ACC Extra. He tweeted something that was incredible. Last year, the entire 2024 season, we had 6 no-hitters. We already have 4 in the 2025 season, which is counterintuitive, given how offensive the game is. I'm going to read you guys some pitching performances that stuck out to me this weekend, and I want you to just grab one if any of them jump out at you. So Tennessee threw a no-hitter. It was a Liam Doyle start. We've talked a lot about Liam Doyle. Blake Gillespie's a cool story. He threw a no-hitter for Charlotte. He spent 2 years not pitching at Georgia, basically, and now he gets his advantage or his opportunity at Charlotte. Drew Horn, the Sunday guy at Middle Tennessee State, threw a no-hitter. Ethan Norby punched out 19 in 7 innings. I mean, he acquired 21 outs. 19 of them were punch outs. Good on you, Ethan Norby. Cam Johnson at Oklahoma had what looked like a little bit of a breakthrough outing. It's the best strike-throwing start he's had, and we know he's got dominant stuff. For Vanderbilt, they're playing Xavier, who's a good team, and Ethan McIlvain had his best start, didn't get out of the 4th, but still his best start, and Cody Balker shoved again. This Vanderbilt rotation is getting real to me. Maybe it's been real. Fitzy, any of those jump off the page at you?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Vanderbilt has Pedro J. Martinez in the middle of its rotation. I mean, that's a pretty good place to start.
We all know the Sunday starter role at Vanderbilt is the fast track to the Baseball Hall of Fame. That's obvious. Yeah. If you don't know that, what are you doing?
But no, I got to talk about Blake Gillespie, a proud member of the fabulous Fit Dogs from our preseason fantasy draft. I think I paid like $6 for this guy, and he just threw a no-hitter. Listen, he's good. He's physical. Delivery works. It's repeatable. I mean, I saw him in the fall, just pound the zone 92, 93 with a quality slider and changeup. And they were really hoping that he could come in and give him that kind of Wyatt Hootapole kind of instant impact, big time transfer presence. And the first couple of starts maybe weren't great, but he showed you this week. It's the real deal, and glad I got that guy on my squad. I just want to say, hat tip to you, Mr. Gillespie.
I like it. Did you is there any truth to the rumor, Fitzy, that you put 6 $1 bills in his locker just to motivate him? That's all these people think you're worth is 6 lousy bucks?
That rumor is going around, but we're going to keep that internal.
You handle your business internally. Yeah. Very classy. KR, any of the pitching performances jump out at you?
Yeah, I'll go with Ethan Norby. Just a simple fact that he punched out 19 against Coastal, who obviously has pretty good hitters, seasoned hitters. And the other thing that, Cliff Godwin was telling me is that 23 of his first 25 pitches were strikes. I mean, that's pretty incredible. And so just that kind of outing against that type of lineup was ultra impressive. But on the flip side, give Coastal a lot of credit, man. They after punching out 19 times, they came back and actually won that series in Greenville. So great job, Ethan Norby, and also props to Kevin Schnall's team for coming back and winning that series. That's a tough gut punch when you strike out 19 times.
Yep. Amen. Joseph, what say you?
The Cam Johnson piece is interesting just because if Oklahoma, their offense has been better than I thought it would be. They've impressed me there. But the situation is still such that Oklahoma is just going to have to really pitch it come SEC play. That's just going to be where their bread is buttered. And right now it looks like that's some pretty tasty bread and butter. So it's Kerrygold. It's Kerrygold.
Joe, are you going to eat your cornbread?
It's the good butter. It's the
Kerrygold
butter, garlic and herb that comes in the gold wrapper.
Oh, that is good. You got to put that on steaks.
Yeah, that's the kind of bread and butter Oklahoma's working with in their rotation. But consider me intrigued. They've got South Carolina opening weekend of SEC play, and that's a lineup that's not really swinging it right. There's a very real chance Oklahoma goes to Columbia and carves up the Gamecocks. So I'm excited to see what they can do.
Gotta love it. I'm gonna go Cody Bowker. I am so excited. I love that arm action, that long swinging, low release, high ride fastball. I also just think it's interesting that he's from a town in Maine that I cannot pronounce, and yet he shuns the University of Maine to go to 2 inferior academic institutions like Georgetown and Vanderbilt. I mean, if Chris Gennaro
quit sucking up to Gennaro. Come on.
I'm just saying, like, what are we even teaching our hin school students in the state of Maine? Do you got a pronunciation on that hometown, Fitzy?
It's got to be Bowdoinham.
No, that's Bowdoinham. What in the world are you thinking?
Kendall, I think you got all 3. You got all 3 syllables incorrect. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think it's. If I were to listen, I can't say. Oh my God,
Bottom?
You're killing me. Listen, but so. I'm guessing it has something to do with Bowdoin, like Bowdoin University, Bowdoin College, whatever. Bowdoinham, maybe Bowdoinham, but I can't say this with that much authority. But I know however Kendall said it is wrong. No.
Hey, Runes, can I give some love to Drew Horn as well?
Yeah, please.
It's kind of interesting. I was thinking about him because I did the conference preview for them. And in their survey, they had said in the fall that he was up to 97, 98. So obviously that grabs my attention. But, he's having a really good year. I mean, 38 strikeouts and 24 in the third for the Blue Raiders. And, guys, teams are hitting him at a 100 clip. So might need to check in with some area scouts around there to see if there's a little bit of buzz on Drew Horn.
Yeah, and he's pitching on Sundays too, which maybe that's weather related. I think
I don't know.
I want to be careful. I don't jump to conclusions on that. Hey, let's wrap with. Go ahead, Fitzy.
Just to follow up, I did put it on mute and quick listen to pronunciation guide. It's Bowdoinham, Maine. So
I actually wasn't that far off.
You were way off. If you replay the tape, I was very close.
Kendall, if we're being honest, I'm only say this because I'm your friend. There's police tape around your pronunciation. It was.
What's worse, my pronunciation of that town or Scythe pronouncing Casey Opitz?
You had you had us at Scythe. Yeah. they don't call him the butcher for nothing.
He only scouted the dude like 40 times.
Yes. Yes.
We love you, Scythe.
Boys, an exercise we're going to do next week, because I want to give it one more week, but on the NCAA stats page, it's fun to just sort by winning percentage. And I just enjoy teams that are off to great starts. Like Richmond is a member of the Rune Dogs, so pardon the bias, but Richmond is 14-2. That's not easy for Richmond to be 14-2. Like Western Kentucky is 15-1. Like Mark Reardon, you have our full attention, right? Like there's a long way to go in Conference USA. I get it, but like what they're doing at Western Kentucky is not fake. But we'll come back to that next week. We'll give it another week for things to progress. There were some fun upsets this weekend. And if you're a college baseball SID listening, when your team does an upset and you get on your Twitter page and you're kind of torn on whether to be aggressive, talking smack, like, please hear me saying, let it rip. Let the shaft out. That is the best part of these upsets.
I'd say.
Oh, yes, please. Like, just like Stanford's tweet after, taking the series at North Carolina was glorious. I like, bring all of that smoke. So let me give you a couple of the upsets. New Mexico State 4-hit A&M on Sunday. We talked about that. Old Dominion had a huge comeback at Auburn. Binghamton won a series against an SEC school. Like, we know Missouri's vulnerable right now. They're rebuilding, etc. But Binghamton, from the Northeast Conference, right? That's the league they're in now, have been. Binghamton won a series against an SEC school. That's amazing. UC Riverside won a series against Hawaii. I'm kind of heartbroken on that one because I'm thrilled for the guys at Riverside, and that's a crushing blow for Hawaii. I hate that for Hawaii, who I think has a regional caliber club. But that's a huge series win for Riverside. And then Fitzy, your Presbyterian College Blue Hose with a big Sunday win against Alabama, who we think is a real team. Fitzy, start us off. Any of those upsets, or another one, if you want to go off the board, BC, wherever you want to, wherever you want to go, an upset that you thought was of interest.
No, I want to go somewhere completely different, Runes, actually, because you mentioned the Hilltoppers. I just want to make sure everyone knows that another fighting fit dog, Ryan Weidman. Have you seen what this guy is doing?
No.
He's hitting .438. He's got 3 bombs, 15 RBIs. I mean, it's 11 steals. He's got a 12 OPS with 11 steals. He's just filling up the stat sheet. This guy's a freak, and I want everyone to know you got to have your eye on this joker.
Fitzy, your cookie cutter player development system where everybody has to hit the same and pitch the same, no stride, the whole, you guys are wearing Mizuno cleats, I'm told. It's been much maligned, but maybe it works.
Listen, if it's been maligned, then the maligners don't know what they're talking about.
The maligners need to check themselves.
Runes, I meant to tell you, speaking of fabulous teams,
yes.
I was going to tell you earlier that there are 307 Division I teams in the RPI. The Fabulous Rune Dogs are unfortunately 308.
Yeah, we're
sorry.
That's
5-5 last week. We're Patrick Ebert. Like, when are we checking him for performance enhancing vitamins? Because he's just 7-3 every week. Like, it's like Biff from Back to the Future. What number, Fitzy?
Number 2.
3.
Number 2.
Dang it, 3's the Western, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Dang it, gotta get better at that.
Come on,
Kendall.
Coach.
Kendall, do you have an upset that you?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with an upset, and yes, this is an upset for everyone listening. Is Stanford taking 2 out of 3 from North Carolina, and also, I mean, just flat out dominating the Tar Heels in the series finale. I don't think I saw that coming. Fitt actually had a really good piece on Joey Volchko from Stanford. Was up to 96-97 over the weekend, 5 1/3 shutout innings. Then Aiden Keenan, guys, was electric too. I watched about 3 or 4 innings of that game, and his breaking ball was sharp. His fastball's up to, I think it was 94. The TV gun had him at 94. But, I mean, it was impressive. So for them to win that game 7-0 on the road after a long flight and dominate that way, that was pretty impressive.
It was super impressive. And shout out Bradley Smart, because he wrote a piece, I think just last week, about Aiden Keenan and his emergence. Yeah. And then Keenan goes out there twice this weekend and looked really good for Stanford, as just an emerging sophomore. Just 93-94, the fastball that jumps on you, can spin the heck out of the breaking ball. They use him for multiple innings. Maybe 3 innings even of relief. Thereabouts 2 2/3 something on Sunday in his second appearance of the weekend, and it was great. And so like that's a really nice piece. I like their team a lot, for sure. And long term, there's still some things that they're trying to, I think, figure out. But boy, they have a lot of confidence. They have a lot of talent, and they have arms. And that was just a really impressive team performance, because again, they got blown out the day before on Saturday. Like, they won the microwave going off. What do we got, Joe?
My dishes are done.
Joe's nachos are ready.
Nachos are ready.
Slow and low on the nachos, baby. Slow and low.
You gotta hurry up. Joe's Totino's Pizzas is ready to be.
Totino's. Yeah, what a blast from the past that is.
Those give me heartburn. I can't do those anymore.
I used to live on Totino's Pizza. It's like a buck.
Hot Pockets, Joe? I bet you're a Hot Pocket guy, aren't you?
Not anymore. I love when I was a kid, I was all about it. Although they would burn my mouth. Like the inside of a Hot Pocket was like, I know that hot's in the name, so I get it. But like it was like molten lava inside those Hot Pockets.
Molten hot magma.
Exactly.
Well, we've gone off the rails here. I think I'm done talking about Stanford. They're good.
Good pieces, great pieces on Stanford, and again, we need to take them seriously. They that team's going to be in it to win it. Joe, any upset jump out at you?
So this is less because of the upset itself, because I think almost any team can beat any other on just a one-off situation. But I think Presbyterian is, Aaron knows this, but kind of just an interesting little program that, and I don't mean that derisively. It sounds like I'm being like patting them on the head, but like an interesting program that I think a lot of people don't know about, and the history there is interesting, where this is a school in Clinton, South Carolina, which is kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's like halfway between Greenville and Columbia. And they didn't have, they for most of their history, they're relatively new to Division I, but through their Division I history, mostly not a lot of success. And all of a sudden, 3 or 4 years ago, they've just started winning. They went to a regional last year. They won the Big South. They had 3 top 10, top 12 draft picks last year. So they're keeping their players somehow. They didn't really lose anybody to the portal again this time around. The coach, Elton Pollock, was a player at Presbyterian. He also played football at Presbyterian. He was recruited to play baseball there by Tim Corbin, who was the head coach at the time. Tim Corbin was the head coach at Division II Presbyterian at the time. And his name is on the stadium. Elton Pollock's name is on the stadium, and he's not 75 years old. Like, he's a relatively young coach. I mean, his name is.
What do you mean his name's on the stadium? Like it's on like a foul pole or something? Like
it's Elton Pollock.
What?
Yeah.
It's named after the active coach?
Interesting.
Yeah. He's got a good heartbeat for the game, fellas.
Good for him. That's great. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Joe, but that blows me away.
No, I think about that all the time, because it's like, it's one thing when you're, a coach that's clearly on the, the last handful of years, but like he's pretty young guy. Like he could have 20 more years coaching at PC, and his name is going to be on the stadium that entire time.
His best season might be ahead of him, actually. Like it's crazy.
That is incredible. It's like,
go ahead, Joe. It's a program that I've thought about writing like a story on, like maybe an off-season story or something, because it is just like all of those pieces, like the fact that they're just, I don't want to say suddenly good, but like seemingly out of nowhere, they're good all of a sudden. Like the Tim Corbin part of it, the name on the stadium part of it, like there's just a lot of interesting stuff there, and it's all at this school that goes by the Blue Hose.
Yeah, if you go look at like pictures of the ballpark, the entire outfield fence says Elton Pollock Field around the entire field. That's kind of awkward, but it's awesome.
Can you please do a story, Joe, about what exactly a Blue Hose is? Like, is it?
I think it's just like Red Sox, but it's just hose. Yeah,
like
they're
the Scotsman. It's like a Scotsman.
Joe, you still owe us a story on why Lehigh went from the Engineers to the Mountain Hawks.
Working on it. I'm efforting that story. The gears are in motion.
Can you please? SEC opening weekend's a great time to explore these stories.
That's right.
Yeah, good point.
So please put Tennessee on the back burner.
Give
us that Lehigh story, please.
Yeah, and the hose. We want the hose by Thursday, please. Thank you.
Engineers and the Blue Hose.
Where's Walt Villa? Walt Villa will find out for us.
That's right. By the way, Joe's UMass Hawks have 3 wins already. I mean,
we're hot, baby. We're hot. Plus
St. Peter's. I think St. Peter's has 6 wins already.
But can I give you a sad story if you don't mind? While we're talking about sad stories.
Sure.
Our friends at Yeshiva University, gosh, they really, they had it. It was right in their grasp this week. It was right there. I mean, they after getting outscored, I think it was this Division III, I believe. After getting outscored 106-2 in their first 4 games of the year, they almost won twice this weekend, but they got walked off 6-5 in both ends of a doubleheader.
Who they play?
The same team that they almost beat back in 2022, the last time they won a game, I think.
John Jay College.
Yes, thank you. That's right.
It's been a while. Famous law school.
Yeah, he's
they're not the Miami John Jay.
Big fans of the Federalist Papers for sure. Anyway,
yes, you're not Miami John Jay. John Jay, the Miami outfielder, did not start his own university.
Joe,
the Bloodhounds.
Sounds like
Sorry.
No, I was going to say, Joe, close your ears. It sounds like a really good non-conference opponent for the Rice House.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was
You
low.
know,
That was
that's,
low.
That's a low blow. The Bloodhounds of John Jay, though, you just walk into
The
their place and
Bloodhounds. Are they really the Bloodhounds?
They are indeed.
It's an elite mascot.
That's outstanding,
Boys,
actually.
I will bring us back on the rails, and I will wrap us with this. I do want to say New Mexico State was a fun upset for me because I think you've said it, Kendall. Jake Angier was an amazing hire by them. He was the pitching coach at Sacramento State and then Oregon. And New Mexico State, when they're good, they're good. Like under Rocky Ward and Gary Ward back in the day, they had a nice run. And then, under Brian Green, they had a first-round pick and a really good run. And so they're Jake's a heck of a coach, and they're a fun program. Binghamton, I want to bring up again. They're in the America East. I apologize. I should know that. But I know you're beat. How cool is that they dumped $60 million into a baseball stadium? Everyone that's been there says it's like blow your socks off. And then they just won a series over an SEC program. I mean, that is good for them. That is Fitzy. I think we call that return on investment. Yeah. I mean, maybe I'm being a little aggressive there, but
a little
whatever.
Aggressive probably, but good for them.
Yes. Fitzy, in your scorebook, please mark this down as a victorious podcast. I believe this podcast has been won.
Yeah, that's a W, boys.
That's a dub.
Let's also write down that the United States Merchant Marine Academy should be on upset notice when Yeshiva plays them.
Oh boy!
Look out, Merchant Marine!
Look out!
Look out, Merchant Marines! Oh, gentlemen, great to see you. Hey, everyone, we will have a preview pod this week. It is the SEC starts this weekend. It's game on. There's some really good Big 12 series. We will have a lot to talk about on Thursday. Tons of great stuff on the website. Everybody enjoy your week, and we will catch you next time on the D1 Baseball Podcast.